The episode opens in the dim, cold glow of the sheriff's station before dawn. Aaron lies on a cot in the holding cell, exhausted and barely stitched back into human shape after the horrors of the hunter's moon. The air smells of dried blood and scorched metal, the bars twisted from where something half-born tried to drag itself out of him the night before. His branded arm is cracked and blackened, angry with heat. Ro, Hart, and Mara watch him come back to consciousness, wary, relieved, and frightened all at once. They explain what he already half remembers. The entity had tried to build itself a second body outside his own, using his spine as scaffolding. He nearly became two creatures at once before something at the forest's edge, something he felt like a wall slamming shut, forced the emerging beast back into him. The boundary buckled, the world bent, and somehow he survived it. Far from the station, at the forest boundary where Caleb fired the silver round, the ground is still blackened. Sap blood stains the bark of a wounded tree. The spot where an antler once pushed through reality is now a sealed scar. The fragment Caleb retrieved is gone, and the forest groans in irritation as dawn bleeds into gray. Caleb sits in his motel room that morning, studying the antler shard he stole from the edge. The thing pulses subtly in its vial, distorting compasses and spiking electromagnetic meters. When he brushes the glass, images flicker through him, the town seen from the forest's perspective, threads of connection linking certain houses, one thread thicker and darker than the rest, pointing straight at Aaron Vale. Caleb realizes the truth. This shard is a periscope, a splinter of the god feeding information back and forth between worlds. Meanwhile, the town is unraveling. Rumors swirl. People come to the station to whisper their fears, and one man points directly at Aaron, claiming he saw him standing in his yard in a dream. As the crowd grows restless, Aaron's vision shifts. Threads of faint light connect people to the forest, mapping the spread of the mark across the town. Hart worries that the more Aaron absorbs the mark, the more he becomes something like a router for it, a conduit for information and influence, not just a barrier. At the church, Reverend Klein fans the flames with carefully chosen words. He tells the townspeople about the old pact, about the bloodline that protects them, about the vessel they rely on, never naming Aaron outright, but making it clear enough who he means. Some in the pews want Aaron protected. Others want him sacrificed. The town begins to fracture along old ideological lines, fear splitting it open. Deep in the forest, Silas gathers the pack, Ivy, Maeve, Jonah, and others caught in the pack's shadow. They argue over what Aaron has become. To some, he's a threat. To others, he's the only one actively changing anything. Silas sees a more complicated truth. Aaron is both a danger and a hope, a splinter in the world's order, and the pack itself is starting to fracture over him. At home, Aaron feels the world shift again. Reality blurs, the walls ripple, the Mark network maps itself across his vision. He senses a new focal point pulling at the marked, not the forest anymore, but the motel. He mutters a phrase in a voice that isn't fully his. There, shard. Mara realizes he's sensing the antler fragment, like a piece of the god lodged under the skin of the world. Night falls. Sleepwalkers rise again. But this time, they don't walk toward the woods. They drift toward the motel, pulled like filings to a magnet. The unmarked stay grounded, but the marked rise in eerie procession, converging on the third-floor hallway. Inside the motel, Caleb hears them approaching, dozens of sleepwalkers, filling the hall, drawn by the shard's presence. He grabs the case but feels the weight of something far older whispering through it. Aaron, Ro, Hart, and Mara arrive outside and see the quiet horror. Half a town wandering barefoot under the moon, converging on a single room. Aaron feels their threads pulling through him, a net tightening around the shard's gravity. They reach the third floor. The hall is choked with bodies. Caleb opens his door to face them. Ro confronts him about the fragment. Hart warns him he's destabilizing both sides. Mara mocks his reckless confidence. But Aaron barely hears the argument. All he feels is the shard screaming inside his skull. When Caleb opens the case, The antler fragment pulses like a living wound. Aaron reaches for it, trembling, as the brand blazes under his skin. The world begins to flicker, the sleepwalkers humming in unison. They argue, destroy it, study it, return it, but Aaron makes the choice no one else can. He grabs the vial. The glass shatters in his palm. Sap blood burns through his skin. The fragment writhes, trying to root itself into him, trying to open a path for the god to enter. Aaron takes it anyway. He presses the burning shard into his branded flesh, forcing the entity to collide with the mark inside him. In the psychic world, the forest god lunges, furious. Aaron does what no vessel before has done. He doesn't reject the piece, and he doesn't let it go. He drags it into himself, folding the shard into the structure already growing in his blood. Light erupts, then implodes. The sleepwalkers collapse in unison. The hum dies, and Aaron falls to his knees, shaking, the brand warped into a new, branching shape. He has removed the shard from the world by becoming its prison. Outside, the pack watches from the tree line. Maeve warns that Aaron is becoming something worse than a vessel. Ivy insists he's saving people. Silas sees the truth. Aaron isn't fully belonging to either side anymore. He's becoming a third path, unpredictable and dangerous. Down in the parking lot, Caleb approaches Aaron with wary respect and a hunter's unease. He warns him that absorbing the shard isn't survival, it's suicide. Aaron replies that dying while saving others is the closest thing to a choice he's ever had. Caleb admits the town will soon tear itself apart over Aaron's existence. Then he walks away, leaving the night full of unspoken threats. Later, the pack splits. Maeve and Jonah cling to the old pact, ready to preserve the boundary by any means, even if it means killing Aaron. Silas and Ivy turn toward the unknown future Aaron represents, believing he might rewrite the rules entirely. The pack tears along a fault line drawn by Aaron's choices. And somewhere between forest and town, Aaron lies awake, his skin crawling with new marks, feeling both worlds tug at him, the god on one side, the town's fear on the other, and the splinter inside him pulsing like a second heart. He is no longer just a vessel. He is no longer just a lock. He is a fracture, a splinter in a world built on an ancient bargain, and the pressure around him is rising. Every system is built on balance, every balance on control. But introduce something it cannot measure, something it cannot contain. Then the balance does not hold. It fractures,